everyone, and welcome to the Gaming Corner podcast. New year, new us, and lots of old games on our shelves. Let's talk about it. I'm your host, Jeff, and joining me today is Adam. How's it going, man?
Hello.
What have you been up
Pretty
to?
good. Not too much. Got through the holidays. Had my birthday. It all packs in together.
We sure did. The last 3 weeks have been kind of crazy with all that, but it was a good 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Daniel. How are you doing, Danny?
Run as fast as you can before the squirrels get you.
Apparently, we have the
That about
gingerbread
sums it
man
up.
on our podcast.
Oh, 'tis the season.
Well, it was the season. And lastly, joining us is Henry. Hey, Henry.
Aforementioned gingerbread man.
Fuck you.
I think he's just ginger.
Goddamn kids.
Oh, geez, that's funny. Well, guys, it's good to have you here. Thank you for joining me for episode 7 of the Gaming Corner podcast.
Oh, no problem. I heard there was cookies.
Yeah, I've pretty much eaten through all of my holiday stash of cookies.
Oh, shoot.
They're all
I
gone.
was lied to. I was
Mine
lied to.
Mine didn't last more than a day or two.
We made ours stretch, dude. Like, I made a loaf of apple bread. We had some brownies we made, and
No, I was referring to specifically the holiday cookies we made. We distributed a lot of them. The extras that here did not last long.
oh yeah, we had a couple here that we kept, mostly because they broke in the icing process. But hey, who? They were still tasty.
We still have fudge. I still have a quarter pound of fudge left in the fridge.
Fudge. All right,
Which
That sounds yummy.
Your father will probably eat tomorrow.
it does. All right, well, given that, let's hop right into our first topic today, guys. As we just mentioned, Christmas and New Year's just wrapped up. We also had a birthday. Happy belated birthday, Adam.
Thank you.
And, yeah. I don't know about you guys, but generally, over Christmas at least, a very popular gift from my parents or close friends are video games. Not this year. I didn't get any games for Christmas this year, but I don't mind that because I just happen to have an enormous game backlog. And I wanted to talk
Wait, we
about
do?
gaming backlogs with you guys. Why do we have gaming backlogs?
It's we spend money impulsively and then lose interest in that game and then never play it again.
Yeah,
Even
we're
look at it.
we're quite bad with this
True.
thing, but but I think it's actually kind of pertinent to go ahead and lay some definitions down. What exactly is a game backlog, gentlemen?
Depression.
All right.
It's like a log of meat that you just happen to eat, but it's made out of video game discs, so it's kind of weird and not
Very
really tasty
crunchy.
either.
It's got a weird
It's like
texture
a
to
granola
it.
bar with no
Dude,
flavor.
you can't season it for shit either. It's just fucking all bad.
Oh, man. It's like
no,
the
I have-
barbed
I have
wire
a
of
few-
appetizers.
I have a few games, and are you referring to? Here's a question: are you referring to games that you like? You have a list in the back of your mind that you want to play, and have parked on a wish list or something somewhere, but you just haven't got around to buying and playing,
No,
or games that you've bought and are sitting there to be played.
yes, that's what I'm gonna go with our definition of a backlog. So, I'm gonna go ahead and set a definition here. A game backlog is a list of video games that you own and have either not played at all or not finished to the extent that you were planning to finish it. Would you guys agree with that definition?
Yes.
Yes,
Like
to an
to buy a
extent.
vowel.
With the caveat that I like games that you started and didn't like and decided not to finish because you didn't want to finish them don't count. Just games where something where factors other than the game force you to stop playing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense to me. So I went ahead and I think either last night or the night before, I went through my gaming library and figured out exactly how many games I have in my backlog. Going with the definition that I set, well, let's go with the definition that Adam set. Any games that I haven't played it all, or of no fault of the game, just haven't finished playing. I have 31 total games in my gaming backlog with no playtime at all, and I have 44 games that either have no playtime or less than 10 hours. That's a lot of Vigima games, my friends.
A lot of money.
My numbers are probably roughly equal to my Steam library. I've gotten very good in the past couple of years, but I almost never buy new games. For me specifically, and the reason I brought up the definition is I do have games that are like in there that I'm partway through and just haven't finished or haven't played at all. But there's quite a few games I can think of. Oh, I don't know, 5 off the top of my head. Like 5 big titles that probably I'd have to get some DLC to, or like get some expansions at this point to, depending on how you're counting. So like right off the top of my head, without even really thinking about it, I could pull up 5. There's probably a lot more that I haven't gotten because I don't think my computer could handle them. And there are a couple games that I have that I don't play because my computer can't quite handle them. They're kind of iffy. I have an older computer, and so they're sort of on the when I upgrade my computer, I'll get these and play them.
The minimum spec requirements, though. The minimum spec requirements, though.
Yeah, well, in some cases, it's not even min spec requirements. It's that it meets them. It's just they're a little
iffy,
either ass ugly or jittery. Or my personal favorite one has about, like, the game is turn based, so like it could literally have like next to no animations and work totally fine. But the way it's programmed is that it sets itself at, like, there's no way to adjust the frame rate. It locks itself at a frame rate. And so it's like the game will produce 60 frames a second. This is just an example. I have no clue what the precise numbers are. But the game will produce 60 frames a second. It'll ask for 60 frames a second. And if your GPU can handle 30, it's still going to make it do all 60 frames. So it's going to run at half speed.
Oh no.
So the game literally runs at half speed. Like you're like playing in slow-mo. Dude, it is the most and because it's a turn-based game, like there's essentially those wait moments, like after you click do this thing and you wait for it to like do the little animation, take twice as long. And there was one animation in particular where I would often like have to send this thing flying across the map, and it would like randomly route around things and like go up and down. It would take a long time, and doing that at half speed, I'm like, I'm gonna get a coffee while this thing flies there and back, because Lord alive, I can't so I stopped playing that one. I adore the game, I just can't play it on this computer because the game is coded a little weirdly and it won't accept a low FPS. It's gonna make you watch all 60 frames or whatever of it.
It's like you're on PC Master Race, my friend. Embrace it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, so I just wanted to say that my game log on Steam is probably that or less than that now, because I think I chewed through quite a lot of them that either got put in my whatever bin, or so, but there's still some there, I'm sure, on Steam if I really decided to look for them. And then I also have a backlog of ones where it's like I haven't got them yet because I don't have the time right now, or I don't think my computer can handle them right now, and I don't want to like fall into that morass, so I've specifically not bought them. But I want to get them at some point and play them.
I've got a few of those, but I didn't count those in my backlog. Like
all those, like I said, it's not technically the definition we're going for, but like
all those games that I counted, I do own, and they're just sitting on my shelf or my digital library, and they're just like begging to be played. But 9, there are some reasons that I haven't gotten around to them. We'll discuss.
Basically, my point was, like, my list is maybe as long as Jeff's or in that ballpark, but it probably would be longer if my computer is a little better.
Okay. What about you, Danny? What do you have for a backlog, do you think? I know you're pretty good about playing your Steam games.
Okay, we're gonna talk about backlog. Everyone, strap in. What I was trying to do is go into my profile and look up. There is a special way you can organize all the games in your library by the amount you've played them.
Yep.
And I was going to scroll and just start counting once I hit a threshold of playtime.
Mm-hmm.
There are games which I love and have invested in deeply, but there's this magical place we all call Epic Games that gives away one free game every 2 weeks.
Oh no,
Yes.
your backlog must be enormous then.
Oh, I pick up free games like it's going out of style. But in Steam, there are a couple games that I've picked up. Example, Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Oh,
that I just haven't gotten around. I heard it's a great game.
It's great.
But I've looked at it and I've gone, I don't want to get into a game that hilariously I only have to invest 20 hours in, where I can invest in this game, Call of Duty Cold War, Genshin Impact, League of Legends, where all I need is like a half hour, and then I can just be done if I'm not in the mood. Anyway, so I've gone to Epic Games. Also, there's a free-to-play game on Epic Games right now. Not sponsored, but it's called Crying Sons. I just remembered to tell Adam. That's what I was going to do. Adam, there's this game called Crying Sons. It's a turn-based game. Space battle. Might be interested in.
All right, well, you viewers heard that.
library.
Crying Sons, check it out.
Epic Games, the free game this month. Anyway, so thank goodness, there's time played. So I have on Epic games I haven't even touched yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Master
9,
accounting
10,
right here.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27,
He's
28,
really gonna do
29,
this.
30, 31, 32, 33,
All right, what about you, Henry?
36, 37.
Oh god, so many. so many, Jeff.
So, how many games do you have on Steam just in general?
Oh god, I think I have over 300 easily.
The fact that you said easily scares me.
Yeah,
You know the ones.
Okay, so I have my answer for Epic Games, so I'm going to keep going on Steam.
346.
That's a lot. How many of those do you think you have played?
Played? Probably about like 50 or so.
So your backlog
Tiny
is
numbers.
almost 300.
Out of all of those, I think I have like 7 that are like 100% completed too for playability. So
there's a statistic.
we're working on that number. We're getting that number back up.
There you go.
Entered a friendly competition for highest achievement score or number of achievements in Steam.
Oh gosh.
It's fine. I'm almost at 1,400. He's only got like 500 right now.
Oh,
I
you're
might
right.
have like
Hold on.
100.
Fun fact, it tells me that apparently I have a 25% average game completion rate.
Wow.
And it judges it by the number of achievements that you get out of it and everything. So I complete about 25% of all the games I've played so far.
Ha! I have a 31% average game completion rate with 7 perfect games.
Well done.
Nice.
And I have, oh my god, 4,141 achievements.
There you go. You have people like him.
Well, you have many achievements. How many games do you have in your backlog there, Danny?
Me too.
353.
That's not your library. I mean your backlog.
Oh, in Epic Games, I just counted it. 62
Oh.
62 games I haven't even touched yet.
My gosh.
Be good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never even opened
And
up
then,
Epic.
I found it. I found how to organize the games by time. Really? Warframe is my number 1 most time spent
As it
game?
should be.
Next to Killing Floor 2. All right, time to scroll down to see when it all goes south. I don't think there's many games on Steam that I have that are zeros, but I do have a few.
I have 20 on Steam with no playtime.
I loved N.A. Noir. That just took forever to get up and running.
A lot of
that's
those
that
games,
night.
by the way, are games that you guys bought for me for like my birthday and Christmas.
Oh, birthday?
Oh, you mean that Assassin's Creed game? I'm still so sorry.
No, that was on the Wii U. That is the one game I have on Wii U that I haven't played yet.
13, 14.
But games like, I remember when Adam bought me this one, Learn Japanese to Survive Hiragana Battle.
I have 79 games in Epic Games,
That's a decent number.
like total. And I'm pretty sure I haven't completed a single one of them, so I guess you could add 79 to my...
All right, well,
whatever
Henry, it
Steam
sounds like
number.
you've got the biggest backlog out of all of us.
It's
Out of-
crazy.
Shit, I
Out of
I played that.
tangential data here, I have. Oh, excuse me. I have like 88 roughly books on my wish list, which would be like the books I want to read but haven't on Amazon, and at least 30 in physical form up in my room that I haven't read yet.
So what you don't have in a gaming backlog, you do have in a book library.
Yeah, and note that especially for the ones on my wish list, many of them are the first book in a series.
So
Now,
that
some of
list
those
could
series are
quickly
2 or
expand
3,
depending on how.
And at least I can tell you at least 3 of them on my wish list are high up on it. Like I keep moving them up the list so they stay near the top. I haven't read them yet. They're by authors I like, and like the story sounds really good, but each of those series is at least 10 books long, and I just haven't had it in me to tackle a 10-book series recently.
I think that's fair
So
enough.
like,
Danny,
if you count by book, it could be,
Danny, do you have a final count yet?
It's not that bad, actually. The problem is, in this, analyzer that's telling me all the games I totally haven't touched, they added DLCs in here. and then there's like the free like multiplayer onlines that I haven't touched because, oh man, Digimon Masters Online, woo! I'm running towards. That's for a night in which involving vodka, a live stream, and just seeing where the hell it goes. But it looks like my backlog's only about, I'm gonna estimate 70 games.
And out of
That haven't been
350 or so
touched.
games that you have, that's actually not that bad.
Well, it says uncategorized 566 games.
That's many. All
That's
right.
not a lot.
Well, gentlemen, now that
Yeah.
we've established that each of us has a fairly extensive backlog, to say the least, why does
I don't know
this?
what you're
Why does
talking
this
about.
happen? We have so many games that we haven't played, but I don't know about you guys, but I just keep buying them. Like I bought 7 or 8 games in the past 2 months, and I've played like 2 or 3 of them.
Because they pump out games like they're fucking candy nowadays.
Right.
Oh god,
nuts.
candy. I love
Just
candy.
there's a lot of games I want to play, and then like
There's just a lot of developers. You have indie titles and shit like that too. It's just content. Just keeps bumping.
Might I add, 2020, year of the indie developer. We love you boys. Keep up the hard work. Fuck AAA right now until they redeem themselves.
it depends on the developer, but yeah, I am pretty fond of higher profile indie games at least. I played one recently over the Christmas break.
Higher profile indie. I'm
Well-
over here with quotation marks because to say the only difference between one and another is higher profile indie is just an indie that was successful and actually has enough money to pay their animators and their gameplay designers while they're in development.
Well, when I say higher profile, what I mean is that not all indie games are created equal. Like, there are definitely standouts, and those are the ones that I try to focus my attention on.
A good example is Hades. Hades right now
yes.
is taking over the Steam store. But what was funny was I looked at the developers and I'm like, oh my god, they're the people that made Bastion, Transistor, and those games were from the get-go. Bastion, I think, was their first game.
That wasn't bad.
It was
I played
it was so simple, but it was good. It was a legit like this isn't bad, and it kind of got a cult following. Transistor. Oh, if you like Bastion, but you wanted it to be cleaned up a little bit, get Transistor. That game is just... They made... basically, how to describe this. They added the Fallout VAT system to a top-down combat game.
Interesting. Well, I'll have to add that to the list. my ever expanding list of games I want.
But okay, I'll let you speak for a little bit before I go on my philosophical tangent I was about to do.
All right, so that's one of the reasons that we have a big backlog is that there's just a lot of games. Like there's a lot of games that we want. I have like 20 games on my Switch wish list, but I have how many games on my Switch do I have that I haven't played yet? 6 of them. 8 of them that I've played for 5 hours or less. So, like, I should probably go through those ones first. I want to posit another reason that we might have enormous backlogs, and that comes in the sales department, or like the Steam winter sales or the Steam summer sales. Like those are a big reason that we rapidly expand our gaming library and just cannot keep up with it. What do you guys think? Do you go crazy during Steam sales?
Not as much anymore.
Not as
True.
much.
Like a couple of years ago, sure. I definitely bought a fair, probably double-digit numbers of games because it's usually had decent like bundles and stuff like that for games that interested me and everything. It was just like, all right, it's just cheaper to buy this bundle than if I like the franchise or something, then I'll have the rest of the games to play into and that. So usually that's something that caught my eye with a couple of those things. But lately it's just like, am I going to play this right now? No. All right, I'm not getting this sale. It'll be on sale either for more next time, or I just will lose interest in it.
See, that's how
or
we
watch
should
somebody else
do
play
it.
it.
Pretty much the same thing. I definitely went through a phase where it was just like I collected a whole bunch, and I think I finally grown out of it.
I
like
wish
to
I
have to
could say
exert some self-control sometimes.
I wish I could say the same, but one specific sale that always makes me more, let's just say, generous with my wallet is Black Friday.
Oh, the Christmas
guess.
Thanksgiving sale.
Even then, Black Friday doesn't even have like the greatest deals. I mean, probably for like console players, which you usually do like your Switch and everything. More
Hi,
for,
I'm a resident console player.
But I mean, Nintendo's been doing pretty good with their eShop sales as well.
Dude,
they've been having
like
some pretty good deals and everything on like decently priced deals on some actually good games.
Yeah, like for Black Friday this year, I bought 5 games on my Switch. I bought Bastion,
Bastion.
SteamWorld Dig, Faye,
Good too.
Decent. Okami HD, and Ukulele and the Impossible Lair. And I bought those all for $35. So I definitely got some good deals there. And I played Bastion, and that's it so far.
Oh,
You beat it
Bastion.
yet?
Huh?
Yeah.
Did you beat it yet?
I did. I beat it within a 24-hour span.
Yeah, it's not
short.
it's not a long game, but boy is the story actually rich.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It didn't really hook me, but I liked it enough to finish it and complete all the challenges. Not challenges, all the challenge stages.
Yeah,
with like the different weapon
yeah.
types. I finished all of those.
Fair.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. But I still have 4 other games in my backlog from Black Friday, and there's one game from last Black Friday, Mega Man 11, that I still haven't played. It's still in its cellophane wrapping.
We all have those moments, Jeff.
Boy,
Do we all have
I have more of those moments than I want to admit. But yeah, I think that's a large reason for, at least for me, for the existence of my large backlog is that sales. Like, sales are a huge contributor to my backlog.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, you were going to say something earlier, but you wanted me to continue. What were you going to say?
Yeah. Oh, it was a philosophical. It was more like a philosophical, like, unloading, but I knew it was so left field. Because what's funny is looking at the games that I play and the fact that I keep getting more, I've discovered that as I've gotten older, the reason I bought more and more games is I was looking for a game that truly sort of satisfied what I was looking for, and that because the games were almost hitting that itch, but were just, like veering off of it ever so slightly, I'd be like, I got close. Let's try it again. And this is the genre I'm looking for. This is the type of game I'm looking for. I mean, if you want to know what sadness looks like, look at Anthem. I was really stoked for Anthem.
I remember how amped you were for that game.
It filled so many niches I was excited for, and then I got it, and then I looked at the reviews, and they're like, yeah, the AAA company just kind of just abandoned it, when they didn't think it was going to make any money, so the indie had to try and, make up for it, but they didn't have the power. I was like, oh, that is so sad. And they walked away with all the money. But as another funny thing to look at, I understand that we don't have really an urge to buy games, but in our wish lists on Steam, how big are our wish lists on Steam?
For you guys, I'd imagine they're enormous. For me, I have like
72.
7. Holy cow.
Really?
I have like 7.
53.
Oh, okay, that's a pretty good size. Oh god. Well, I used to do the cycle through thing all the time. So 1,340.
Did you just say you have 1,140 games in your wish list?
300.
300.
300.
Okay, I was
Good
gonna say
try. Yeah.
1340.
Oh, every time I see a
My
bad
gosh.
game, every time I see a game I want to analyze, every time I see a game with an interesting concept, I put it
The
into a
problem
wish
is,
list.
at that point, it's useless. Like,
It's amazing,
You basically
though.
have
The
the
games they
Steam
recommended.
fucking entire shop.
you
in
have
your
the
fucking
Steam store
in
on your wish
yeah.
list. Like, what the fuck is the point?
Dan's like, I have
you know
enough
what the
years
funny
left in
part
my
is?
life to explore all of these.
But you know what the funniest part is about this Steam wish list is you think, oh, he's getting every kind of game. No, I'm getting mostly survival and FPS. I am not even shitting you. Like they look at my games and they go, oh, he wants survival FPS with a splattering of everything else, except sports games. He doesn't want anything to do with sports
Everything
simulators.
except sport games, huh?
Sports simulators.
Is Tractor
my main
Simulator 2018 on your wish list?
Wait, hold on.
Hold on,
It
I have to
might.
check.
Oh no, wait! I got it for free on Epic.
Oh.
Now,
Okay, you unironically have it.
oh my gosh, I have Worms on here. I have Keeble Space Program. I have DayZ. I have Little Inferno. I have just all these games that were big titles that people really loved, but just kind of faded away because parts of the concept were good, but not all of it. And to me, I'm always interested. It's like picking up a new book for me. It's like, okay, why is this shit and why is it good? I gotta read it.
Makes sense. You like
I
to
don't
analyze
trust what
those
other people
games.
say.
I
really do. If you watch my streams, I get very analytical when I get frustrated of something, but when I enjoy something, oh my god, you'll never hear me compliment the shit out of it. Like, for example, one of my favorite games that just hit a niche with me perfectly, the Surge series. The Surge 1 and the Surge 2. It is Dark Souls done in the future. So basically everyone had cybernetics, a cybernetic hive mind takes over, all these people are trying to kill you, you in mech suit basically take down these people, but they in mech suit too, so you get hit 3 times, your guy just goes flying across the room impaled on something. But what makes it satisfying to me is when I played that, it felt like Dark Souls combat. However, when you did a finisher in that game, each weapon had a unique finishing combo if you got the finisher to go off, and all of them were so satisfying. It's like the developer took a course in, if I was about to beat you with a hammer, how would I actually beat you in a hammer if you missed a punch? And it was like, oh yes. I still remember what was my favorite kill finisher? What is this stream rated? How graphic can I get? Can I do a graphic warning?
Are you talking
It's not
about
too
the
graphic.
podcast?
Yeah.
What
What do we rate this?
I don't actually rate us. We're unrated.
We're unrated? Okay. But anyway, one of the best kills is if you have twin rig, which means you have basically in your mech suit, you have two things strapped to the ends of your arms. And in this game, it was basically like a fork. You were the tongs of a forklift on your hands, and how that machinery worked is you actually just used it like you were the actual forklift, but here you use it as like Wolverine gauntlets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but I'm trying to explain where that is on the body. One of the moves is the person tries to punch you. You parry it with your left hand, expose their center of their body, and you bunny punch the shit out of their chest with forklift tongs. It's like, oh my! The guy, you're just doing fast, short punches right into his chest, so the guy's basically coming off the ground with how many hits you're doing, and then you do one final, and he just drops to the ground riddled with holes. It's like, whoo, whoo! And that was one of the few games where when you finished someone, it was like, yes! Oh, yes, because I played Dark Souls, and I'm like, okay, Dark Souls is fun. But when you'd finish an enemy, it was just like, I'm like, well, I'm happy I finished him, but okay. Move on to the next. It was a much more satisfying experience for the weaker enemies and to the bosses. And there was also like special challenges where you could get an exclusive weapon unlock if you killed a boss in a specific way, but they wouldn't tell you the specific way. And even if you knew it or could guess it, it was a pain to try. I mean, one of the bosses, in order to get his unique weapon, you had to do a finisher to get rid of his arm. And this guy was just flying at you full speed all the time. And it's like, you want me to only hit one part of his body while avoiding all of this? Send help. Send lots of help.
Also, send help. We definitely got off on a tangent there.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was personally my tangent. But I find that we keep getting games to sort of try to scratch an itch or to satisfy our desire for a game that we personally would like to play and we would personally enjoy. Now, with Steam and whatnot, there's a huge range of games. And there's just so much we can play and enjoy and experience these days. But when we were younger, and when Steam wasn't really a thing, we had to sort of make our own games in the games that we played. Like Jeffrey just acing Yoshi or giving himself additional challenges if the game became slightly slow to him.
Or Mario 64 for that matter.
Or Mario 64. And, even to this day, you still enjoy Mario 64 to such an extent because of the experiences you've had of it, but also the other styles of play that you've gotten out of it.
Sure.
You've played Mario 64 as a speed run.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That actually brings to mind another reason that we might have these enormous backlogs is, to your point, Daniel, back in the day, especially when we were kids, these giant multitudes of games were not readily accessible to us. I know that for myself, I only got new games every once in a while, and it was a great treat when we did. Now we're all adults, and if I want a game like lacking any self-control, I can go buy it. And sometimes, especially for Black Friday, I do.
What is self-control? Is it that thing that you get a free thing of chips with when you go to a restaurant?
Self-control is not an object, my friend. If it were, I would try to buy some because I'm severely lacking it when it comes to sales.
Well, Jeff, what would help is if you bought the Self-Control 9000.
Dude, sign me up. Put that on my Steam wish list.
It's a great little thing.
But yeah, what do you guys think of that? Like, now that we're adults, like, these games are more readily accessible to us, and with the digital age, it's easier than ever to buy video games. I think that definitely contributes. What say you?
Unless you're trying to get a graphics
convenience
card.
Factor. I mean, I guess so. I mean, it's just easier, especially for digital, because you just It's like, all right, I have the license key. It's floating somewhere to this username and account or password, and that's that. And then if and when I want to play it, I just have to download it, log into account, download, play the game.
Right,
So it's just space wise and much more convenient, and easier to get to.
It's also a lot easier to acquire. Like, you don't have to drive anywhere to a store or order it on Amazon and have it shipped to you. It's like, click, download, you're done. And you have that game. It's like, great, now it's in my backlog and I can play it whenever I want. Then it just sits there and sits there. At least for me, that often happens.
I get it. What I'd also like to bring up is physical games versus digital games.
That's a whole other topic, my friend.
Well, yes.
Yeah, it is.
Well, but for the sake of backlog, do you think physical games it's harder to backlog on because there's a physical reminder?
I think so.
In front of you?
Yeah, because you only have so much space. Eventually, you'd be like, my house is filled with video games, and in Jeff's case, his wife would probably start getting upset about that and ask him to clean out some of it.
Right, like I have a bookshelf here, but only one shelf is for video games, and I hate doing this. I hate it. I had to start double layering it, so my Switch games are in front of my Wii games, my 3DS games are in front of my Wii U games. I don't like that.
Oh.
But yeah, like, that is one aspect that prevents me from buying more physical games than I will buy of digital games. Just physical space, that's an object. Another one is convenience, like I mentioned before. It's not as convenient to pick up a physical copy of a game. Though, when I'm really excited about one, I will. Like, I'm getting on a tangent, but hear me out. I went to Best Buy recently, and it was to buy something completely unrelated to video games, but I stumbled into the video game section. I'm like,
as always,
I wonder what's over here. And to my awe, sitting there on the shelf was one last copy of Ori and the Will of the Wisps on a Switch cartridge. And you'd better believe I picked that thing up. But in general, no, like, if I'm out at a store, I am not an impulse.
Picked it up and put it right back down once we saw that price tag. He's like, oh, no. No,
I bought it. I knew how much it would be, but I wanted it. But I'm not an impulse buyer. If I'm at a store, generally, when I'm at a store, I just buy what I plan on buying, and that's it. So physical copies of video games don't tend to make their way to my library as easily as a digital one would. That's pertinent to the backlog discussion. It's a good question, though, Danny. Do you have any other reasons why digital may be easier to backlog than physical?
Well, seeing how I have a 5 terabyte additional storage unit onto my computer so that I can put any games I want, like, overnight and put them in there, and then just not think about it, but I can open them up at any time, compared to, hilariously, out in the boonies, this is another factor, having to wait 3 days for a game to download because of internet speed.
Yeah, that's another one.
Hey, is Steam updated yet? Nah, we got another hour. No, not Steam. League. Is League of Legends updated? Nah, we got another hour. That's only 300 megabytes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love when we tell them how our internet was, and they look at me and go, nah, internet's never been that bad. And I'm like,
you what, mate?
Oh, you what?
Remember, at one point, the internet was 2 cans and a piece of string, i.e. it didn't exist.
I remember in my childhood, though, like, 38 kilobits per second, all right! Dial-up, baby.
Yeah.
I still cannot believe when, at my house, my mom got us, like, what, 1 meg... Was it 1 megasecond internet?
1 megabit, yeah.
Yeah, 1 megabit a second. And I remember going up to Jeff's place, and Jeff's like, yeah, 250 kilobits! I'm, like, next to him going, hey, 250 kilobits, oh god.
Yeah. Well, I can see how that would affect backlog acquiring.
Well, yeah, because once you get a game, you'd be like, finally! And then you start playing it, you you enjoy the game, but you also have like one running, another download like started, but it gives you probably enough time to finish that game before you do the next one. Whereas for me, it's like, oh shit, I had 10 games on here. They're 80% off. It only cost me like $5.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling. All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of good reasons why we have backlogs, but I have another question for you guys. We have these giant backlogs of games. Why do we play through them? Do we end up going back and playing through any of them, or are there any reasons why we don't? Like, I know that for me, I have all these games that I haven't played yet, but I gotta be honest, I'm more likely to go back and replay an old game I've played to death, but I know I like it, rather than pick up a new game from my backlog and play that, just, unless I'm consciously making that effort. I generally stick to old games that I know I like, or Tetris 99 when I have like 20 minutes to kill. What about you guys? Are there reasons why you may or may not go back and pick out some of those games to play?
Right now, the biggest reason for me is hard drive space, and I only have like a very curated selection of my favorite go-to games downloaded. Mm-hmm. And so those are what I'm gonna play for the most part, because like shuffling things around to make a room for something else is, kind of a product. I have a few that aren't as like, not everything I have downloaded is like, I'm going to play it now, but yeah. And I find the same thing. Like if I want to play a game, like sometimes I want to go back and like work on games that I have like ongoing profiles on. And I just really like, but I have the same thing in books. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to start a new book. I'm not in the mood to like start a new book where there's like risk that you're not going to like it and stuff. And especially if I find if I'm really stressed out or like wrung out emotionally, I want nothing to do with like trying a new book. I want an old book I've read before that's like comforting old friends that what's going to happen and everything. You can just kind of enjoy it, and there's no stress involved. That like I find like that can be like a big thing. Like certain games, certain games the same way, but like books, like I can really see it distinctly because I read a great deal. Sometimes I'm like, I want to try new books. Like, come on, let's go, bring it on. Like I'm like pounding out book after book after book that's just like brand new, and like this one's like I blast through it. That book was rubbish. Next, just on a roll. And then other times I'm like, I can't do this right now. Like find one of my old favorite authors and I just sit down and like, it's like a cozy blanket on a winter night, like all the familiar characters and places and everything. I do the same thing in games, but to a lesser extent.
I can definitely relate to that. What about you?
Like,
that's... Go ahead.
So I was just going to wrap it up and say, like, that's the main thing is that, like, you know what the game brings, and so it's like and it's not going to surprise you. And I really dislike change, and all of us to a certain extent dislike change. And so like sometimes when everything's changing, you just want unchanging things. And so like that sort of reaction means that you'll go back to things that you like again and again. And so that's why. That's like one of it's not the only reason, it's just like I'd say a major reason sometimes why games look at plays. You have to be kind of in the right mood for a game that's on your backlog.
Sure. What about you, Henry? Are there any reasons why you might not pick up a game from your backlog and play it?
Yes.
What you got for us?
I don't know. Sometimes with certain games, I could run into like a glitch or something that just like sets me back like a couple hours of gameplay, and then I'm just like, all right, cool, done with this game for a while, and then completely forget about it and just play other things. And it's like, wait, why did I stop playing this? And I'm like, oh, I'm all the way back here, and then I may pick it up then at that point, but it's just like it's got that awful stain, and I'm just like, motherfucking thing, this thing sucks. But to bounce off what Adam was saying, you're more likely to just replay games that you know, especially for like me when I get home from work or whatever. Like I'm usually mentally burnt out, and I just don't want to sit there for like a half hour thinking about a decision in the game, being like, what's the outcome of this going to be like, or trying to figure out like puzzles or solve those types of things, when it's like I could just pick up another game that I know the solution to and just be able to like turn my brain off for however long I'm playing it. So that's usually a pretty big factor. I don't know, it's could be something as little as that.
Yeah, I hear you there. After a hard day of work, I can definitely see you just wanting to chill out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, along with that, like, there was this, how was it? The quote from Mark Twain, classic, a book that people praise and don't read.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of profound, I guess, like a lot of profound works of art or anything like this, there is a certain amount of dramatic tension involved, and like, you know, because they are classics, like really good, you get involved with the character, and like there's emotional involvement there in it, and there is stress and tension because you're part of the story. And sometimes there are books or stories or things that are essentially the junk food of the literary world, if you will. They're fluffy, or they're fluff. There's not any substance to them. They're not a class or anything, but yet you'll read them, and sometimes you'll even reread them, I think, because we don't like always want that kind of tension in our lives. Like because if you're stressed out from other things, you know, piling on more stress in a different way, like let me put it this way. You do not want to be going through a divorce and reading Dostoevsky's was it Crime and Punishment? Or whatever. Like,
I probably wouldn't be reading that even if I wasn't going through a divorce.
Yeah, I know. Like there are major times. Like, you're not gonna read certain, like, you don't want to pile stress on top of stress. Like, that's just not, like, we don't take that well. Like we
don't. Holy shit!
Like I was gonna say, like that's the sort of thing where like light and fluffy, and like sometimes they aren't even good, but they're mindless and like vaguely enjoyable, and that's all we want. And like, I suppose we should be careful not to slump into think of that's all we do. We should try and expand our horizons and do stuff like that. But like that's why but the reasons we don't is if you're stressed out in other ways, like in I say unavoidable ways, but like, you know, if you want to, you know, live a comfortable life, you know, you need to do your job, and you do the other things, and these some things, even if you love your job, sometimes will be extremely stressful, you know, like I don't know if you probably don't know this, but for 2021, the tax code has changed.
Oh, good.
For, well, you probably won't notice it too much, but it's based off your W4s or 2s or whatever it is for your, like, it's changed in how you calculate federal tax. Like, you don't care. Your paycheck will probably be slightly different than it used to be. But like the accounting department at your work is probably like ready to kill someone right now, as your first paychecks will probably be coming out shortly for this year. And so this year it changed, and like my parent, like my mother in this case, like she owns a small business. She does that paperwork herself. She loves her job, but she has to do this paperwork as part of her job. And she is, it wasn't a fun day. Let's just say that she was not having fun. And that's, you know, but that's, you know, so even something you really enjoy can sometimes be very stressful is what I'm saying. So
sure, I definitely hear that. I mean,
so
I too hate doing my taxes and playing video games.
Yeah.
that I'm not familiar with.
You get the ideas. I was just trying to say that like it's not that
I get
like,
your point. Like
things are
when you're in a state of mind where like you're mentally occupied with other things, sometimes it's nice to just unwind with a game you can just turn your brain off.
Yeah. And if you're too emotionally wrung out, you eventually end up like you're mad at the game or whatever. You ever had one of those situations where you're like you're upset about something else, and so you're in the video game, and before you know it, you're screaming at the computer screen, which there's not even someone like it's not even like you're online. It's like talking to someone. You're just like you're so the game. There's like some small obstacle to your progress in the game, or something that requires some mental effort, and you just get like frustrated all out of proportion to it.
I can't think of any specific examples, but maybe if I think long and hard enough.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like it happens sometimes. Doesn't usually happen.
I don't know. It sounds like you're talking from experience.
I can think of like 2 examples, and that's like,
are they
over
league related?
Years. Huh?
Are they league related?
No.
Because any examples that I would have had were league related.
That's a whole different thing. That's not being mad at a video game for no reason. That's being mad at other humans for,
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe not a good reason still, but there's a bit of a difference there.
Well, moving on. Danny?
Yes,
do you have any additional reasons you might think of for why you might not want to access your backlog?
Why I don't want to access my backlog. To an extent,
maybe
it has to go to my...
Yeah. Why you don't want to, or why you just don't?
Why I don't want to, or why I don't. I was thinking why I don't.
Go ahead.
And I was going to say it's probably based on the fact that a lot of my backlog, I like the game so much, and some of them are just kind of painful to play because I know they're bleh, that to an extent I want to play them for the stream. Like for a stream, I played a lot of games called what is it? The 10 Horrors or the 10 something, and it was 10 indie developers in like 3 days making a game, and I was like, okay, none of these are going to really impress me, but I did it for a stream just so I'd have some interesting topics to talk about because there were 10 different ways. Each one had their own way of how to look at horror. One was a walking simulator. One was a jump scare. One was psychological. One was a reaction time. One was situational. One was decision making. And each one handled horror differently. And it was 10 games. And it was really fun. But of those games, I would only go back and play one because one of them was brilliant. Like, it was so simple, but they got what was fear across the board. And it was amazing. It was just, French kiss. The rest of them, so one of them wasn't delivery. It was DiGiorno. And then everything else was delivery. It was definitely delivery, and it was probably from the Chinese shop across the street where all the missing cats have come from.
Gone to. I don't know. I don't know how Chinese restaurants work. Well, so
I'm not obligated to say that.
So I don't know. What are you getting at, Dan? Like, how does this tie into not going back and playing backlog games?
Because some of the backlog games, I'm like, wait, if it's going to be bad, let me do it for a stream. Let me wait for the perfect moment to play this game to get my first reaction of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Rather than me being like, oh, this game's awful, let me play it and have a jaded viewpoint so that I don't create an honest experience for my viewers or for myself. Now, there are some backlog games that, I just need to play, but because of the material in them, I don't want to because, Jeff, you know me. I understood this word called hentai, and I was like, oh my god, let me just play a couple of them, and
just a few,
and just a few of them. I wonder if I could actually look up tags and just see how many of these games have nudity in them, like the tag nudity. Although, to be honest, like Cyberpunk would be in there, The Witcher would be in there. Great games that use nudity as a storytelling point, not as a you should play this game. It's got batonga dongs.
I'm
But
sure
there are
I'm sure
games
that's
which-
got its fans.
Oh,
Yeah.
this has turned an interesting corner.
So I'm going to
This one's
I'm
I
going
I
to
see
stray
this
away
yawning
from the
chasm coming up ahead, and my
No, time
fervent
is there.
hand signals are not changing direction. So I'm just gonna cut in with my voice and stomp
Nope,
on
nope,
ye
nope.
old literary break.
No, I'm pushing you out of the seat, Adam. I'm building a bridge over this. So one of the reasons I just don't play some games is because of the subject material and the topics are just they don't feel appropriate for me at that time. I just
Okay.
don't want to handle them. Either it's not an experience I want to feel right now. It's like horror games. It's a beautiful sunny day outside. Yo, I want to see someone's heart get eaten. No, not the time. Not the time. It's got to, it's got to be dark. It's got to be a quiet evening where you're like, it's settling down. It's time to get spoopy. All right. It's like when a game takes about 100 to 200 play hours. You got to have that right time where you just sit down and invest. It's unlike freaking idle clicker games where I've actually invested more time in idle clicker games than most games on my phone. but back on topic. There's some games where the situation mentally and psychologically has to be sort of in tune to really feel like you're getting the best experience out of it.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
So
I got one
And-
more. Just
And
okay,
like that, I went across the bridge.
I got one more. Sometimes when it comes to my backlog, even though my backlog may not be as enormous as some of yours, I can get overwhelmed just looking at the games that I have, even just on my shelf. Looking at the games that I have in my backlog, and thinking like, I don't even know where to start. Like I don't know which one to play first. Like over the Christmas break, I tried to work through some of my backlog, and it took me forever to figure out where I should start. Eventually, the deciding factor was Sky. She was like, "Well, I'd like to watch you play Tomb Raider," so I played Rise of the Tomb Raider over the break. That was a good place to start. But that is a challenge for me, looking at my just sheer backlog of games that I either haven't finished or haven't played at all, and being like, where do I even start with this? It's easier for me just to go play a game that I know I like or that I know I'm in the mood for. I don't know, like it can just be overwhelming looking at that list.
yeah. So I was gonna say, like, I think of this kind of ties into our next point, how we were saying that sometimes we just want, a known factor experience, not something unknown. We just want to, and the beauty of playing something that we've played before and we know what's going to happen is that if we stop in the middle and don't pick it up for a while, it doesn't matter because we kind of already know what's going to happen. So like, it's much harder to lose the thread of the plot or what we were doing or, that kind of stuff. And so I think that kind of ties into the next topic we were going to talk about.
Sure, we'll get to that in a minute, but I do want to, like, if you guys don't have any more thoughts on the backlog, well, I'll tie it off with a bow, unless you guys have something else you want to say. Go once. Go ahead.
I mean, for me, it's like I just have a shit ton of games, like you said, and it does become a little daunting for it because, like, I could look at like I don't know, 5 different games, and they're all relatively the same play style, game type, and everything, and it's just like I could do this one or I could do this one, and then I just get like, you know what, I'm just gonna go out with what I already have downloaded, and then just go with that instead, and then ignore those games again. So that's usually a big problem with it as well. I just bounce around through all the assortment. So like the more games that are added, the worse it gets.
It's a vicious cycle.
A different dimension.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Well, yeah.
That's all I got.
But yeah, those backlogs, man. let's just say if the apocalypse were to happen tomorrow and we still have access to the internet and electricity, we've got plenty of games to get us through.
I mean, we just had the apocalypse, and look how many games we got through.
It's far from over, my friend. But
Yes.
with that,
What are you trying to say? Is there another 2020 about to happen?
dude, 2021's already off to a bad start. But let's not get into that. We're talking about Vigima games.
Yes, let's stick
I'd
with
say-
the
I'd
video
say it's a
games.
decent
We're
start.
talking about
Could be a lot
Vigima
worse.
games.
But
And
anyway, so this next topic
And real
is
quick,
so-
Dan made a reference to wish lists earlier, and I had talked about how I'm very selective with my wish list. And out of the 9 or so games on there, the vast majority of them are games I already own on a different platform.
Oh my gosh.
I am somewhat of a fan of double dipping on games. Gentlemen, do any of you share in my sentiment with that?
Here's the thing. We are all console kids, so we group everything in one spot. Not console, PC kids. You're a console kid, so your consoles keep updating and upgrading, and eventually, they'll become, to an extent, outdated. So you need to kind of upgrade if you really want to play a game again.
Well, it's not only that, but I also have a few different platforms. I have the Switch, my PS4, and my PC, where I can all play modern games on all of them. So I have a good selection of places I can play the games.
Yeah, essentially, at least I play games on my computer, and that's essentially it. I have no other place that I play them, so there's no reason for me to have 2 copies of something, because the only time I've double dipped is a tiny handful of games I had on CDs, and some of them I still have on CDs, and I've kept them, but those CDs disappeared or stopped working just because they were so old.
You
And
scratched
so-
my CD, You picked it up in clear daylight and you scratched it.
And so I've bought Steam copies of 3 games because I love them so much.
Real quick, if anybody understands that reference, go ahead and comment.
But yeah, that's the only time I've double dipped. Essentially, I just play stuff on my computer, so there's no reason for me to have multiple copies of things.
All right, Dan, I assume you share that sentiment pretty strongly, considering PC is your main and basically only modern platform.
Main and only modern platform.
Like, the closest that you've got aside from your phone to your PC is your PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
Oh my god, I have so many good memories of my Xbox
Damn,
360,
shots fired.
though.
It's not a shots fired thing. That's just
No, it's the truth.
That's the
Damn,
only place you have
shots
to.
fired.
It's the only place you have to play modern games, and that factors into not double dipping a lot.
That's true. And I've moved to PC. I think the main transition from console to PC happened in college, when having a laptop was, for me in the gaming world, was great. I could just move it anywhere I wanted to. I could do notes. I could work on programming while someone else is laughing. Did someone send you a meme? Was it a meme time? Anyway. And the flexibility that a PC could provide compared to consoles, where consoles were like, well, did you fully set up your game and then link it in and then listen to how they want the game to be played, which I think is a hilarious concept, that the PlayStation is such a moody piece of machinery. I'm not even going to say the word, but piece of machinery. Just, oh my gosh. Jeff, do you remember what we had to go through to record Sly Cooper on the PlayStation 3?
Yeah, that was fun. HTTP protocols and whatnot.
Oh, yeah,
They're
it
better
was-
with that on the PS4, by the way, just so you know.
Oh, of course they are. Probably because everyone was done with it.
Now they haven't completely gotten rid of the HTTP protocol, and I don't.
Well, of
I don't
course
blame
not.
them, but
It's okay to have
it is a
basic
lot
security,
better
but-
now. But what you're saying is you prefer PC, whatever the benefits are to it. It's your preferred platform. You don't really have a reason to have a different platform.
Right.
That means that you don't really double dip even if you wanted to. Henry, what about you?
Double dipping. How about triple dipping, you peasants?
What games have you triple dipped on, Hen?
Crash and Spyro.
Fun.
The reason why it was a triple dip is because the only reason it was a triple dip is because it was originally released for PS4 and it was exclusive, and then they released it for other platforms, and then I ended up getting it for Switch, which is for portability, to take it on the go and everything, and then got it for Steam because Steam's going to probably outlive everything else, no matter what.
Yeah, probably.
So those are the ones I've done, and then I've done like the BioShock games. I had them for 360, and then ended up getting them for PC on Steam. Other than that, everything else is I really haven't like double dipped or anything unless I really like a franchise, or it's an outdated console and I want to play it on my PC, which is going to be better anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense. I generally when I double dip, I feel bad for this, but Adam and Dan, you don't have too much to say on this one, so this is going to be predominantly me and Hen. But when I really like a game, like Hollow Knight or Shovel Knight, both of those games I double dipped on. I got them both because I got them 2 times because I just loved the game and I wanted it on a different platform. Not only because like it afforded me more chances to play it, I guess, but also because it supported the indie developers more, I guess. And I just thought, I mean, I really like the game anyway. It's not very expensive. May as well buy it again.
I get it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other games that I've really double dipped on. Like the ones that I can really think of are Tomb Raider for PlayStation 4 and Steam. Shovel Knight, I got that for my 3DS and PS4. Hollow Knight, I got that for Steam and Switch. I can't even fathom how many times I've bought Mario 64 over the years.
That's fair.
But I guess what's predominantly the reasons that we double dip on those? Like ultimately, it kind of is a waste of money. Why do we do it?
I mean, like I said, I explained why I ended up doing like the triple dip, double dip. It's because it was just exclusive, turned into not exclusive, wanted portability, and then sustain. I don't know, convenience of just always being available where it won't be outdated platform. Or updating from an older platform because consoles just get rotated out every couple of years and then you have to buy a new version, whether it be new graphics or some stupid bullshit like that too.
Sure, that makes sense. So what you're saying is that the platforms that you can get it on have different positives and negatives to it, so that gives you that flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, PS4 was an exclusive thing for the 2 titles. Then they turned it into not being exclusive, and then Switch was portability, which is awesome, and then Steam's just the fact that it's gonna be there forever.
Yeah, totally. That totally makes sense.
So that's the biggest reason there. It's just what's available at the time, and then it's like, oh, better options are available. Well, I'm going to go with those ones instead. Plus, it's usually like pay full price for the first time because I really want to play the game, and then after that, it's like, okay, if these are on sale or whatever, then I'll end up getting them again. Like something Steam ended up doing with the BioShock franchise is I owned 1, 2, and Infinite. Mm-hmm. And when they came out with the remastered versions of 1 and 2, they just gave it to you for free if you owned a copy.
Nice. Yes, I remember when they did that.
So
that was
like, oh, actually, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was really good on them.
So the developers double dipped for you.
Yeah, it was cool. And you got updated graphics and like updated content and stuff like that. It was just nice overall.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Indeed.
Oh,
that's pretty much the biggest reason.
I have one more example of double dipping that was completely In retrospect, completely ridiculous of me to do, but I did it anyway. It was when the Switch was coming out. I technically have 2 copies of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This was when the Switch was coming out. I was super nervous that I wasn't going to be able to pick up a Switch when it first came out. So I pre-ordered Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Wii U just to make sure I would still be able to play that game when it came out. And yeah, I got it, and I didn't open it because I did end up being able to buy the Switch. So there was that's one little funny story about double dipping. But while I'm thinking about that, the 2 different versions of the game, that brings up another thing about double dipping, is that sometimes different versions of games will have different benefits, per se.
Like a definitive edition, bonus DLC versions,
right,
and stuff like that, yeah.
Right, for example, Rayman Legends, that game was originally supposed to be just a Wii U exclusive, and then it ended up going to other platforms. I can see people who probably bought the Wii U version, and then later on down the road, the definitive edition came to a better console, like the PlayStation 4 or even the Switch, for example. I can see that for a potential reason for double dipping.
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely would do that. I would prefer to buy one copy that has all of the DLC, like with the season pass and stuff like that, instead of... And it's usually cheaper, too.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting it like all day one kind of stuff, in which case, it's no helping you.
Yeah. Day one can be enticing for some, but not for me. I don't know. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I can't really think of too much else to say on double dipping, but it's kind of a once in a while thing for me that I do that, I guess those reasons are kind of the reasons why, but I don't know if it's worth it. Like, I'm spending double the amount of money that a game is actually worth just to have it twice.
Not necessarily. Like I said, usually if you get it for a different platform or console, it's usually on sale. At least for me, that's usually when I do it. So
yeah, fair point. But the point is, like, I'm buying it twice, and I don't really need to.
That's fair. You could always think of it as supporting the developer for the game to make like a sequel or something as well. Show the support that way.
Yeah, for like Hollow Knight, for example, I almost thought about buying it a third time just because I wanted it on. It's so good. I love that game.
I need to go through and play it, work on the achievements for it on my Steam account.
I've been meaning to replay that game, but that backlog, man, it's just looking me in the face. I don't know how much longer I can.
I'm working mine down. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I think that pretty much does it for the double dipping, guys. Do you have any more thoughts on that? Anybody?
I actually double dipped in Spyro, and you actually, I think, joined in on one of my streams. But I'm doing a.
I did.
I'm doing a madness challenge for my Spyro.
Yeah, that one where it randomly remapped all the buttons.
Config confusion. It's so fun. If anyone doesn't know what it is. Come watch my stream whenever I do Spyro. Every single key that is normally being used for Spyro on the keyboard, because of the fact that they allow you to change any key to any other key for accessibility reasons, just to do it for fun, but also I based each of my I based each of my special challenges on a mental illness. This is actually to help raise slight awareness over people that actually have, I can't remember the illness, but glitches in the brain where they try to do something and the wrong motion happens.
Yeah, it's
kind of like Tourette's, but it's more of like
accessibility challenge.
Exactly, an accessibility challenge. So I remapped every key randomly using a dice, dice on my keyboard, and just re-rolled every single key. And I'm trying to play Spyro 1. And oh my gosh, does it really show you how amazing some people's brains are? I mean, there are some gamers that have lost hands and have lost hands or control of their fingers. So there are people in the world that actually design specialized controllers for them, so in which they can say use their shoulder as a button. And when they're playing Halo, they can use their feet.
Didn't Microsoft do that at one point? They made like a super accessible controller. That was pretty cool.
Yes, they did.
And that also makes me think of this one guy I saw. Like he broke his hand once, but he loved Mario 64 so much that he learned how to play it with just the one hand, and now he speedruns it with one hand.
What?
Yeah, he beat the game in like 22 minutes or something like that.
Oh my gosh!
With one-handed, right, it was amazing.
But right there, see, like,
that's an accessibility challenge.
That's an accessibility challenge, but he persevered,
not in the same way that
now
we're talking about it here, though. Obviously.
Well, right, but
the reason that you double dipped on Spyro was so you could have that kind of challenge.
So I could have that kind of challenge, and could have it for the PC, because till then all I had was ROM hacks.
Yeah, the PlayStation 1 version.
I'm not gonna lie though, I have gone. Whenever I play Spyro, I will tell you like what I like and what I hate. The one thing I actually hate quite a few things about Spyro 3 because I love Spyro 3 so much. The main thing for me is the freaking pandas on the Panda World. It killed me when they were like, "Oh yeah, these are the pandas on the Panda World." And beforehand, I remembered them as sort of like the passive nerds, but they didn't really show it. They were just like, well, I was like, whoa, highly sophisticated, but it's nice to see you. And now when you play through, they all have glasses. They're all nerdy.
Oh, that's
looking.
Hilarious.
And I could show you the difference, but it was just so like, what the fuck is this?
Understandable.
And then all their voices were like, hello. I'm like, you fucking kill me. What was another one that killed me? Oh yeah, Fireflies. The Fireflies of Haiku Lagoon. What the fuck did they do to you? Like, beforehand, they were just these, like, we are the mystic fireflies. We speak haiku. It is the way. Like everything they said was haiku, and I love that area in Spyro 3 because...
Hated it. So obnoxious. Fuck those people.
Every line was a haiku.
What about in Spyro 2, the fairy tale land? Romeo! Romeo!
Oh
gross.
God,
the gross.
No. And then in the remake, it's wherefore art thou, Romeo?
Yeah, no, it's pretty not okay. That's just all awful, those levels.
I think you should kill that Yeti. But yeah.
The Yeti.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's pretty much the extent of your double dipping, though, right now?
I've only double dipped once, but that was because of accessibility.
Right.
Because
and also because
my
it was
PlayStation 2
remade.
is dying.
Yeah.
Well, not for the remake. I got because I wanted the game again. If you gave me that game
It's
again
only a decade
with the
old.
same old graphics, I would love it just the same.
Dan, you should pop that Spyro disc, your PlayStation 1 disc, and your PS3. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Additional software required. $20 surcharge.
No, it's all built in, to my knowledge. But yeah, I guess that wraps up that conversation about the double dipping. I have one more real quick thing I want to talk about with you guys.
Okay.
One more thing.
One more thing.
Nachos?
It is not about nachos. I mean,
That
you
is
can
dead
buy
to me.
nachos at this place, Walmart. But I have a
Fucking
fun
dead to
story. For Christmas, I asked for a Blu-ray
Nachos?
copy, not nachos. I asked for a
copies of
Blu-ray
nachos.
copy of Avengers Endgame, and my parents got me a DVD copy of Avengers Endgame. Now, I was happy with that, but I took it back to Walmart, and I'm like, I did want a Blu-ray because I've got a PS4. I can take advantage of the Blu-ray. So I went to the movie section, and I'm looking for Avengers Endgame. And strangely enough, I'm not seeing any of the Avengers movies. I'm not seeing any of them. Any of the Marvel movies there. And I'm like, well, what is going on here? Are they like all sold out, all super popular? So I go to the employee that was in the DVD section. I'm like, hey, do you guys have any copies of Avengers Endgame, like in the back or something? And he's like, oh, we actually don't carry those because you can stream them on Disney Plus. So, one, I was completely like, Well,
Flabbergasted.
yeah, I was flabbergasted. I said to the guy, "Oh, okay, well, thank you." And then I go away. I'm like, "What the heck was that? What? Is that where we are now?" And that brought me back to episode 2 of the Gaming Corner podcast, where we talked about, like, is streaming the future of video games? And that kind of revived the topic in my mind. I don't want to get super in detail here, but, like, we're starting to see streaming being more and more of a thing, and it's even gotten to the point where Walmart doesn't even stock Disney movies now because you can get them on Disney Plus. It's a thing that happened. I saw it.
That's kind of stupid.
Now, what will happen? What do you guys think you'll do if gaming starts to be the same way? Oh, you can't buy this game on this platform because you can stream it on Xbox Game Pass. Will you still play those games at that point? Or will you nope on out of there? Continue with your big old backlogs. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, it's okay. You know, I have, to everyone else, I have ADHD, so I always get impulsive to answer because, holy shit, if I turn around and look back, I forget something. I'm like, ah! So, I'm working on it, but I apologize for the viewers, but thank you. So, I had to say that and cause myself to forget. Ah! All right. Where was I?
So if streaming games becomes the only way to play some games, will you keep playing those games you want?
Thank you, Jeff. My favorite friend. Hug.
I thought I was your third favorite.
You've been promoted to second. You know what happened to Michael.
Let's go!
Yes, let's go answer the question, though. Answer that question there, Danny.
So the main thing is, when you ask what happens when streaming comes to gaming, when it comes to streaming, we have hit like the preliminaries of the bigger corporations doing it. If we just simply look at this one concept called goddamn Battle Pass, we could easily see what subscription fees for games looks like. Let's be completely frank. And that is their way of sort of doing a palatable gaming streaming subscription. Oh, you can play this game for free, but if you want all the real good stuff in the back, you might have to give us $20 for these next 2 months, and we can make your life real good if you play a lot. Wink.
Well, not to interrupt you there, Danny, but we did have kind of an in-depth discussion on streaming games in episode 2, so let's keep this brief. If streaming becomes the only option for playing games, what do you think you will do?
Well, Stadia will take over the world. That's for goddamn sure.
Or Xbox Game Pass, or the new Amazon streaming service.
Oh, that's right. Amazon is doing that. Huh.
But if that becomes the only venue, what are you going to do?
Well, the good news is... I have the hard copy, soft copy, yeah, of the games on my computer. So I will still have some of the collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So there's that. That's good news.
Yeah.
But what can I do? It feels like the end of all civilization. My PC exploded, and I wanted that sweet FPS 360 no scope.
But somehow you can still stream games, even though it's the end of days.
Honestly, of all things that would happen if it was the end of days, streaming would become exceedingly popular because no one would want to be out.
No, because the infrastructure would go bye-bye.
Yeah.
Streaming inherently requires a massive amount of infrastructure.
But, if streaming is the only option, it sounds like you would stick with the games that you already have, yeah?
I would adapt to the situation, and I'd probably go into the streaming, but if the streaming is providing things that I'm looking for, aka the backlog games, then I could be interested in it, or it could be put to the wayside, and I don't think about it.
Okay. What about you,
It comes on a needs basis.
Yeah.
No,
it depends on, I guess, the model that the streaming service would take.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm real hesitant to how can I say this? I'm real hesitant to
invest in an interesting business plan.
Shut up, Daniel. That's not at all what I was gonna say.
Meanie.
I was gonna say I'm not interested in investing in something where like I pay full price for a game and then I essentially log into it on someone else's, like I'm like remote desktoping to it in essence.
Mhm.
But like if I'm gonna buy the game,
I'm gonna play a game. I'm gonna play a game.
I want to have it like so I can play it, especially if like the internet goes out or something and it's a single player game. Because I play a lot of single player games where internet connections, stuff like that, isn't required. And so forcing me to have it is somewhat of a downside, you know, especially when our internet's iffy. But excuse me. If it's a model where like you have access to this vast games library and it's a reasonable price per month and you can just kind of play whatever you want whenever you want, I don't know. I'd be tempted. You know, I don't know that I would necessarily sign up, but like I would be fairly tempted to like try a model like that where like if the catalog was large enough, there's a ton of stuff I wanted to try on it, but I don't know. I prefer to just have them on. If that was like the only way to play something and there was a game that I really wanted to play, which would be quite a stretch for my imagination right now. But like if it happened, like yeah, I could see myself streaming it if I had to, but right now my internet wouldn't support it anyway, so
very true.
Like,
all right, that makes sense.
Like I lack the infrastructure for such an option, anywho. So,
all right. Well, speaking of the internet infrastructure, Henry, your internet infrastructure was recently upgraded. Yep. Does that change your answer as far as if you would continue gaming if it was only a streaming service?
No, fuck that. I have no interest in that.
None at all. So if all games just became like all new games just became a streaming thing, what would you do?
I just probably wouldn't be playing new games. It sounds awful. I don't have any interest in having to play streamed games because it depends on how the companies would do it too. Because it might be like individual logins for each of the games that you end up playing too, for like a client or some stupid bullshit. Which that's like 100 different passwords and things you'll have to remember in order to get in to play the game.
Oh gosh, I would hate that.
Another thing that they could end up doing is they could, if it's like one service like Steam, instead of they make it, say Steam has it where you have your library, but it just streams it off of whatever servers they have, and they end up like charging you hard drive space essentially for the number of games you could then have installed. Boy, that sounds super fun. Extra payments there. And then you have to figure out how that would end up working for that kind of thing. It's just no interest whatsoever in streaming only exclusively. It's like I'll just stick with my old shit, my old consoles and things that are physical copies.
Pretty much, yeah.
Understandable.
I think
for me, like Adam, it would depend. It would depend on the implementation of the streaming and I guess like what games are coming out on these streaming things. Like if the new Legend of Zelda, whatever it's called in 20 years, if that's available...
Legend of Zelda. The Zelda's Legend.
Yes. The title I've been waiting for. If the Legend of Zelda, Zelda's Legend was only available on Nintendo's streaming service, you can bet that I would be pretty darn enticed. But it would depend on the implementation. I would be much more hesitant to do that as opposed to if it were available on my Switch or whatever dedicated console I would have at the time, or whatever. Like I'm much more hesitant to go with a streaming service for a lot of reasons that we've already mentioned before. See episode 2 of the Gaming Corner podcast. But if it were the only option and I really wanted to play the game, that would make a compelling argument for me to try it out. And there already are streaming services that are pretty enticing, like Xbox Game Pass. I would be tempted to try that out. I always and forever will prefer my own physical copies, and second to that, very close second, is digital copies, but streaming services are far distant. I don't think I would stop playing new games altogether, but it would be a lot harder for me to want to, I think. And if streaming services really did become the only way to play those games,
Jeffrey will join the revolution.
As we've described before, I've got a good backlog to make my way through. That's gonna take me years to knock out all those games. Like, you know, I've got plenty of games to play in the meantime, and plenty of old games I can go back to. So, yeah, I think that's where I'm at with if streaming becomes the only way to go. Adam, I'm sorry I've kept you from talking for a while.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to get in here. I thought you were ending a couple of times. But no, tying it back to what you said earlier, I think the reason that movies have moved to this model, that's the word I was looking for, is kind of like Kindle Unlimited. I pay a monthly subscription. Actually, I will admit, I got a really good deal. I got like half off to buy 3 years in advance, like considering I've had it for like 6 or 7 years continuously now. That seemed like a great deal, but essentially, you pay it. You paid it monthly, then you have access to all these books on Kindle Unlimited, and you could just read them whenever. Like generally, you're not going to read a book twice. Some I do, but like not far from all the books I read or read twice, and also, the model is a little different because, like you download it on your Kindle and you have so many, like, it's almost like a library where you essentially have stuff checked out from Kindle Unlimited.
Right.
Would be a way to think of it. You pay for that access. But, for movies and stuff like that, even more so. Essentially, most movies you're gonna watch them once, and they're like they're discrete experience you're gonna watch once, and then why do you want that disc clogging up your shelf? It's like why movie rentals were like a huge thing. So like streaming services are essentially just more convenient movie rentals in some way.
Yeah. Just
like Kindle Unlimited is like a library, and there are library functions that work in the same way, but there's a whole bunch of stuff on that. But essentially that's how, that's just a more, it's a one-way street type thing. Like you're watching it and that's it. Games are interactive. You are, like, what you have done has to be saved and you can come back to it later. And, like, for an example, I could read to page 100 in a book and return that book and then come back to page 100 and it'll be the same thing. Even if I had, like, done it physically and went to, like, a different state and got that book from a different library, it would be the same page 100 because me reading it has not changed it in any way.
Right.
But like a game, it's like your profile, your discrete information, like is important to involve. So like it's that difference. It's the interactivity of it. I think it makes it much harder to just stream it because like you don't want to lose your progress or your investment. And many games take a long time to do. Like a movie is just like a few hours done. You're probably never gonna deal with it again. And so like offering you a palette of movies or books like that is much easier than a game because there's some interaction with the game. You'll felt like you've invested time into this game and like that profile and like that stuff. And like if that's lost before you're finished or if it's just lost altogether, that could be like, that's a lot of effort that you've put in. Like you can't just like go back to page 300 of your video game and start right up exactly where you left off. I mean, certain games you could, but many.
I mean, sorry. For the most part, I get your point.
So I'm trying to say is that yes, we've moved to streaming a lot of things, but I think it's going to be a lot harder to make that attainable due to the interactivity of video games?
I mean, I don't know. Like, renting video games is also a popular thing even now. Like, you go to a Redbox or a GameFly subscription, and like you can rent games as easily as movies. I honestly, my point for that is I see the movie streaming timeline. Like, I see that not too far in advance of when games are doing it. And we can still go buy physical copies of movies or download the movies. You can still do that. But it's clear that streaming is getting to be much more popular. And honestly, with my story from Walmart, I can see a future where videos or movies are no longer sold in stores. They are exclusively streamed. I don't like that, but it's a future I see coming. And gaming, I don't think, is too far behind. So
yeah,
but go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's the biggest thing is that because it's interactive, they would have to save in some way. Your data has to be saved for every game.
Sure,
because
that can be tied to accounts and such. Like they are doing it right now.
Yeah, I'm just saying that like. It's like you have to then maintain that account for eternity if you want to go back to it sometime later. Like I can always go back to this minute in a film or that, and it doesn't matter where I've got that film or that book from. Like it's the same because it's, but like you would have to have your specific data stored somewhere on a, like if for some reason I stopped Kindle Unlimited for a while and then went back to it, I would like, it wouldn't matter because like even if they wiped my data, like in like I'd have to like try and remember what books I'd read, but I'd pretty quickly figure it out. Obviously, it would be annoying, I guess, if I lost that data, but like it would be catastrophic if my gaming, if I had a similar thing for games and I lost like all the data for those games, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like.
Sure, it's a completely different magnitude there, but
yeah, so like that was the one like I think a critical difference there. But overall, right, I expect we will move in that direction, especially as it's not that the technology can't support it; it's that the infrastructure can't support it.
Yeah, but we're moving there, boys. So
yeah,
that's pretty much that's pretty much our thoughts. That's what we're gonna do if gaming becomes only streaming. Brace yourselves, boys.
Lives.
Streaming is coming.
Run for our lives.
Well, it's technically here.
Well, that obligatory Game of Thrones reference aside, it's inevitable, and it's gonna happen. The question is, what are we gonna do about it?
I don't know if I'd call it inevitable, but yeah.
But I think that's pretty much our thoughts there. With that, guys, I think that's pretty much going to wrap up our discussions for this episode of the Gaming Corner podcast. Good discussion tonight, guys. Daniel, you have live streams, and you just love talking about them on here. Where can our lovely listeners find you?
Well, you can find me over at Dance Warriors 777 at Twitch. My brain almost said edu. Oh, I'm gonna go cry.
Twitch.tv/DanceWarrior777. What do you play over there, Danny?
What do I play over there? I play a little bit of everything, but these days I mainly stick around to... I've been trying to get a little bit more FPS, and once I get my new graphics card, I think I'll get more into Call of Duty Cold War. But since all graphics cards have been bought up because Bitcoin, I'm kind of holding off on that. I'm going to try to stream some more random games. My schedule has become a little flip-floppy lately, but so streaming has become, instead of when it's supposed to, just random times throughout the week. So keep checking in and see if you find me. I'm the Golden Rabbit. You'll never know.
Dan's the Golden Rabbit. All right, well, with that shout out of the way, I do want to remind the viewers that our video form of the podcast is on Volatile Upgrade at YouTube, and if you want to just listen to the audio version, you can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and a couple other sites. So search the Gaming Corner podcast if you'd like to listen to us there. And one more thing, if you guys have any questions for us that you'd like us to discuss in the next podcast, feel free to let us know. You can comment on the YouTube video or send us a message in the Discord. You can find the link for the Discord in the description of this here podcast. So, with that being said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time here on the Gaming Corner podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Love yous.
Oh God, run!